It seems like it's always the experiences we place the least amount of expectation on that end up being the best ones. I realized this more and more as my road trip continued onto the northern side of the Olympic Peninsula. I got a recommendation to go check out Hurricane Ridge, and when I saw it was near where I was planning on staying for the night, I figured, why not? I'll go see what this place is all about. I didn't know anything about it, and therefore couldn't even set any expectations for how it would be. And my god, this was one of my favorite things I got to see on this trip. Had I known it was like this, I would have planned more time to be here and tried to get here before most of the fog rolled in, but I think the fog also added such beauty and mystery to this place. As I sat at one of the trailheads, wishing I had time to hike even just a little bit, I suddenly had a lot of feelings rush over me. These words echoed in my brain. This is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. And it was genuinely true. I've never seen a landscape quite like this in my life. I felt so lucky to be here. The fog started to take over the mountain, and being as the drive up was already so foggy that I could barely see where I was driving, I headed back down to my campsite for the night. It was a first come first served campsite that was surprisingly pretty deserted. It was the end of the weekend and a little bit rainy, so that may have been part of it, but I was relieved to be more away from other people after yesterday. I didn't feel quite as lonely once I was in physical solitude, but I heated up some canned soup, and it was honestly really gross, but I ate it anyways because I didn't want it to go to waste. It started to get dark shortly afterward, and I did a little bit of journaling in the car and tucked in for the night. Good morning, everyone. It's a pretty chilly, slightly misty morning in Olympic National Park, and I thought it'd be a fun idea to show you guys what my car camping setup is. I've been sleeping in my car for the last week, minus one day when I was staying with family, and it's honestly pretty cozy, and I thought some of you might be curious about what the setup is inside my car, so let's check it out. Alrighty, so here's my car. It's just your most average sedan that I think the world has ever seen, but there's something special about it that made it possible for me to camp in my car. So, I think a lot of cars have their back seat fold completely down, but my trunk is so big for whatever reason that I can easily fit my entire body back here, and it's working out great. So I've got my sleeping situation right here. I didn't fold down the entire back because I've still got stuff on the other side of the trunk, but yeah, I've got my sleeping mat, my sleeping bag, pillow. I have a friend because I was worried I was gonna get lonely, and he's come in handy. Soft blanket. I've got this random giant pillowcase that I found at the Goodwill about a month ago, and I thought it was just so cute and that it would add an extra vibe. And I stuffed my blanket and ice bat into there when I'm on the move so that they don't get dirty. I've got my personal bag of things. I've got a snack bag. Down here I have, you can't really see it, but I have my entire duffel bag of clothes, so that just stays down there, and I try to keep that as neat as possible. Here is the skirt that I wore yesterday that I was walking through in wet, tall grass, and it is still drying out. So I've just got it sitting here like a creepy ghost, hoping it airs out, but yeah, I'm gonna take that down when I drive, of course. I've got this wonderful battery, not sponsored, but I was low-key influenced by a lot of people that are sponsored by this brand, but honestly, this thing is so freaking awesome. Right now, I'm at 60%. I've been charging so many batteries with this because since I'm filming, I have like all these devices I need to charge. So, you know, but most importantly, my phone. So I've got my phone charger in there. Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of stuff shoved in the front seat because when I put the car into sleeping mode, I need to empty out like half of the trunk. So everything kind of gets shoved up here. And then when I clean it up for driving mode, everything goes to the back. And if you're curious about the privacy of the situation, I have window covers for every single window. So if you come around this side, it's looking a little janky now because it's starting to see some wear and tear just from constantly taking down and putting it back up. They really were not made to last. They kind of, it's just cardboard that I found. So you can like peel off pretty easily and then it just shoves pretty tightly back in here. So that's been really great. I have tiny ones for the little windows. And then I have a typical windshield cover for the front. And then I got most crafty with the back here. So it just seemed like a lot of cardboard to try and fit in there. So I ended up making this curtain rod curtain the situation. So I've got this command hook duct taped to the window. And then the curtain rod literally just rests in there and it's fantastic. I'm not going to do the other side, but it took me a second to figure out how to do that right so that there weren't any gaps. I tried the tension rod and it just kept falling down, so I realized I needed some hooks. Yeah, I've got my headlamp as well. I've got all kinds of stuff, guys. I am honestly a little over prepared. All right, hopefully that cut wasn't too weird. My phone just ran out of memory. So that honestly was pretty much it of the car tour. And then it started raining, so I came to sit inside the car and had to move a bunch of stuff inside. And now my jacket is all wet. So I hope that car tour was interesting to anybody that was curious. It's by no means a fancy van build, but I'm only out here for 2 weeks, so, you know, we're making it work. So anyways, I was gonna show you around the campsite a little bit as well, but it started raining. And now I kind of just want to hit the road. It's really cold here and my hands are kind of numb and all my stuff is getting wet. So I will probably head out. I was going to do some filming. There's like some cool like mossy forest behind the campsite. But I don't want to get my camera wet, like my nice camera. And I was trying to take pictures with my phone and it just was not doing it justice. Like the quality, it's not capturing how cool it is over here. So maybe I'll try and take a couple of quick shots with my phone, but okay, fuck, my phone keeps running out of storage. So to wrap this up quickly, I am headed to Port Townsend and then Whidbey Island for the day. So I will see you soon. While I waited for the ferry to take me to Whidbey Island, I drove up to Fort Worden State Park and checked out some of the abandoned military buildings there. One thing about me is I love exploring abandoned buildings, so this was such a dream spot. If I lived in this city, I would be here all the time, but I just didn't have enough time to do all the exploring I wanted to do, so I had to cut the adventure short and head down to the ferry. I'm no stranger to taking the ferry around San Francisco, but I'd never been on a drive-on ferry of this scale before. I've been told this is one of the smaller kinds of ferries that go around the waters here, but to me this was massive and I was a little bit geeked. I spent the whole journey whizzing around every side of the boat taking a bunch of videos. We made it to Whidbey Island, and I only took a few clips here because I was out exploring, including the town where they filmed Practical Magic, so I fell into a big 90s whimsy vibe and was absolutely blasting Mazzy Star along the highway. I then headed to my aunt and uncle's house, where I spent the night and had some awesome homemade pizza for dinner. My uncle highly suggested that I check out Deception Pass on my way north, and I was like, cool bridge, fuck yeah, I'm down. But once I got to the bridge, I remembered that I have a fear of heights. It's not really something I think about until I'm in the actual situation and I'm like, oh, why are my legs becoming so weak that I'm afraid to walk? Oh yes, the ground is very far away right now. The bridge is also super narrow with cars rushing right past the walkway, so it got a bit too intense and I headed back to safety. But the views were stunning and I'm glad I stopped to enjoy the scenery for a little bit. And then, a few hours later, I was in Canada. I had no plans once I got here, and no expectations, so I think you know what that means. Okay, I did something that I didn't think I was gonna do. I got a hotel room. I didn't think that I was gonna do that. I'm in Vancouver, Canada, and the plan was to sleep in my car, as I have been for most of the time, except this time I was just gonna do it like in the city somewhere and hope for the best and like kind of try and find a safe spot. Like I could do that, but what if I didn't? What if I just took the opportunity to store all of my stuff safely somewhere, my car safely somewhere for one night so that I could go out and actually explore the city without worrying about all of my stuff? So I, very last minute, booked a hotel. I literally showed up to town. The traffic was horrible. I was like, I don't know, the vibes aren't great. The weather's really nice, but I'm really stressed out about where I'm going to sleep tonight. And it was already like late afternoon when I got into town. It's a huge city. And I got to the Lionsgate Bridge and I was looking at it and I just sat down at the viewpoint and I just was like, I gotta find a hotel, and was starting to freak out because they were so expensive. I was like, you know what? I haven't been paying for like any accommodation besides like $25 campsites here and there. So maybe this is the peak of my journey. I mean, it literally is. I am at the most northern part of my journey right now. The goal was to hit Vancouver just because I could, just to honestly leave the country for one night, like not even a full 24 hours, but just to use my passport, honestly, which I've had for 2 years and I've never used it. So yeah, what I was gonna say is the last time that I was in Canada, the last time I left the country was in 2006. And it was that road trip I went where I did Oregon, Washington, Canada with my family. I was 8 years old. And that was the last time I, one, was up here, and two, left the country, period. So I kind of thought it would be funny to have the next time I left the country be the same place. It's not that exciting. It's honestly so similar here, and like, I don't know, literally it just feels like a larger version of like San Francisco or something, but honestly crazier architecture and more shops and a little cleaner. I love SF. But anyways, I'm just so excited to have a hotel room. I've never booked one by myself and stayed in a hotel by myself before. So this is like a big girl moment. I just like, let me show you guys the bathroom. It's one of these hilarious, like, glass walled bathrooms. So if you're taking a shower, it's like extra sexy, which is hilarious. I mean, you can close the blind, but it's just me, so I'm not going to. It's gonna be an experience. So I'm really excited to take a shower. Anyways, yeah, it's just a fun, cool place. I don't know. Usually, I don't stay in nice-ish hotels. I mean, there's definitely way nicer places in the city, but this place, by my standards, is pretty dang nice. I mean, there's a freaking, like, they give you a robe so that you can go down to the pool, which I have to go check out. I don't know if I'm gonna swim. I mean, okay, I want to swim, but if there's a bunch of people, then I don't really want to. I just saw a couple with their like toddler go down to the pool, so I don't know if that's the vibe right now, but maybe when they leave, maybe when it's bedtime. So anyways, I'm so excited. I'm gonna sleep so well tonight, and I'm gonna have the best shower of my life. Oh my god, I just noticed that the shower head comes down from the ceiling. I don't get out enough, apparently. This is like top tier luxury. Wow. God, I wish I had money like this every day. Like, this was a splurge for sure. So this, I want to put it out there that, like, sleeping in a hotel at all is not even on my budget for the most part. This was a special opportunity that I'm very excited to take. So anyways, I just wanted to give you that little update on my sleeping accommodations. I feel like I haven't even, I mean, I don't even know how this video is going to piece together. I feel like I'm not getting enough footage in between to show like the in between of like the journey part. Like when I'm traveling from place to place, it's kind of just like, oh, I'm in this city, and then I'll maybe have like one traveling shot of me like filming the road, and then all of a sudden I'm in another city. But I don't know if the in-between is quite as interesting. I don't know. I'm really just flying by the seat of my pants on this one. I don't know genuinely how this video is gonna come together, and I really hope it does. And it's definitely gonna be a piece of work to figure out how it's all gonna come together. I'm gonna have to do some editing magic, I think, and a lot of music montages. And I'm gonna have to narrate some of this, I just know. And I know if you're this far in the video already, you know I've been narrating, but I don't know yet because I'm still living in the pre-edit. I'm still in production zone. So when we get to post-production, that's gonna be interesting. But I'm definitely looking forwards to looking back on everything I've filmed. I hope it's good. I hope it's good. I hope it's interesting. Yeah, something's gonna have to come together. So anyways, this bed is massive. This is like bigger than my car, I feel like. All right, so that's it for me for now. I'm gonna enjoy luxury for a bit, or whatever this is. Not luxury, but to me this is luxury. So I will see you guys soon, and as a heads up, I am going to I'm going back down to the United States tomorrow. It's been too short. It's been too short. Again, less than 24 hours in another country, but this is just the beginning. This is just a taste of freedom outside the US. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you guys either on the road or in my next destination, which is Seattle. So I will see you then. I won't lie, guys. I hit another emotional wall in Seattle. For some reason, the vibes just didn't quite hit right. It was raining a bit, but that usually doesn't affect my mood, so I think maybe it was the crowdedness. I went straight for Pike Place Market, which is one of the only things I remember when I came here as a kid. And I don't really know what I was thinking, but the tourist energy really killed my vibe. I didn't really feel like I was connecting to the city, so I guess that was just a rookie mistake on my end. Plus, some of the shopkeepers there were mean to me, so I decided to just go get some food and leave the area. Also, even the seagulls were mean. Look at these evil eyes. So I drove a bit farther north to this cute beach, but my energy was dropping so low at this point that I just walked to the other side, took a couple pics, and then went back to my car. The previous night, I had booked a last-minute Airbnb here, the kind that's just a room in someone's house. I was planning on wild camping in the city here too, but I was just not feeling that on so many levels, so I'm glad I was able to snag this spot on such short notice. It reminded me so much of my old studio in LA that it honestly made me cry just being in there, but there was also a kind of comfort in it. I disassociated on Instagram for a bit, which I hadn't done this whole trip. I was just not feeling it today, and I was sad that that was just the reality I was living in. I left early the next morning, eager to get out of the city and back into the wilderness. It was a long drive today. I stopped in Portland for a wholesome lunch, and this is the only video I got, and I kind of love that. But I was back in my zone, surrounded by mossy trees and a gorgeous lake. I was now having to come to terms with the fact that this trip would soon be over. I decided to cut the journey short by a day due to the fact that it was going to be hot as fuck once I got back to California, and I didn't really want to camp at any of the spots I had scoped out. I also didn't want to spend more money on a room somewhere when I unexpectedly did that twice already. I was content with doing some extra driving on the last day and enjoy the audiobook I was listening to. So, that being the situation, this was my second to last night on this trip. Even though I still had a couple days left to enjoy, my brain was already starting to launch into reflective mode. I was starting to be able to piece together this experience as a little memory collage of sorts. No longer was this trip shrouded in the foggy mystery that is the future. It had happened. It was done, and I could now say for certain what it was like to travel alone for 2 weeks. I could also say for near certain that me and my car had made it out in one piece, which meant that I could finally lay my anxiety about that laid to rest. I was feeling regretful that I had spent so much of my energy focused on my own paranoia, and because of that, I wasn't always fully able to let go and enjoy certain moments as much as I wish I had. I know that we shouldn't always put so much pressure on ourselves to be happy all the time. We gotta let ourselves feel sad or frustrated sometimes to feel a full spectrum of emotions. So I tried not to be so hard on myself. Life has just been a struggle lately, and you know what they say, wherever you go, there you are. So I think that was just the boat I was on for most of the time. So today marked the last full day of the trip. The goal was to drive to Crater Lake and find a campsite nearby, which are pretty much all first come, first serve. I had a lot of luck so far with campsites, so I was learning to not be too worried about getting a spot. But unfortunately, this time my luck had run out. I drove up and down the highway, driving through multiple campgrounds looking for a spot, and everything was full. I was trying to not panic too much, but I had no cell service and only a few hours left of daylight. I sat in my car pondering my options. Figure out a place to stay and have that peace of mind, or just say fuck it, I want to see Crater Lake and I will figure out the rest later. So, here I was. There is certainly a kind of magic to be felt here. It certainly reminds you of how tiny and weak humans are compared to the power of the earth, but not so much in a frightening way, more in a way where you feel this innate urge to worship it. I felt truly grateful to be here. It's an incredible world we live in, and I fear we take that for granted too often when we focus too much on what's going on in our brains or immediate surroundings. I think we all need to take a step backward sometimes, to gain a broader perspective, to remember that every problem we have has a solution. Things aren't as complicated as we think they are. By stepping further back, we can see that we are not as alone as we make ourselves to believe, that we have the power to change ourselves on any given day, at any time. This power lies within us. We just have to reach inside and take it. Hi. Wow, it's been a minute since I've vlogged. To be exact, it was actually when I was in Vancouver in that hotel room. So for you, that was 10 minutes ago, 15. For me, it's actually been 2 whole months since I was on my trip. So as you can see, I'm back home. I just finished the rough edit of this episode, excluding this part, of course. And I realized that I didn't really have enough closure at the end there. Basically, the last couple days of the trip didn't really go to plan. As you could tell from the narration earlier, I was trying to find a campsite near Crater Lake and everything was booked. So I went to Crater Lake and then the sun was about to set. So I basically just drove south like an hour. And at that point it was dark and I didn't really want to car camp in the city. It was like kind of sketchy. I want to be able to suss out a location when it's daytime. So I ended up booking a room at a motel very last minute. And that was honestly a pretty bad call on my end. Not to stay in a hotel, but the hotel itself was the sketchiest, most scary motel that I've ever been in my life. So I had a horrible last night, which was such a bummer. I really wanted to do like a closing vlog or something where I talked about in the moment how I felt that the trip was ending, but I was so freaked out that I just went to bed. And yeah, that was probably one of the worst situations that I was on that entire trip. Actually, it was the worst situation I was in on that entire trip was that last night. So at that point, I was just so eager to get home that I got up like super early the next morning and I drove down to California and oh, hello. This is Satine, by the way. I didn't think she was going to make an appearance. Okay. So yeah, I went down to California and I wanted to make one last stop just to kind of make the day worth it, I guess. So I stopped at Faery Falls, which is a really cool waterfall near Shasta. So I checked that out. It was super magical. It was a little bit hot, and at the actual falls, there was kind of a lot of people. So I stayed by one of the smaller falls a little bit downriver and just chilled here for like, I don't know, a good half hour filming and really just soaking in that the trip was coming to a close. I was going to be home later that day, and I just felt like I had a lot of things to reflect on. I don't know. I think it was just really hard to process that it was over. It felt like it had gone so quick. So, yeah, I just tried to enjoy it as much as I could in the moment and drove back down home later that day. And that was the trip. So, in case you didn't know the context of when I went on this trip and where I am now, I did that trip back in June, actually, and today is September 4th. So, that was quite a while ago now, and I actually spent pretty much my entire summer editing this series. It was definitely way more of a task than I thought it was going to be. Definitely overestimated how much footage I got, how much I wanted to say. I don't know, I'm still kind of new to this format of just running and gunning a travel series, basically. And so I really had no concept of how long a video like this would be. So I just like filmed anything that I thought was cool and like, stuff along the journey. And what I thought was going to be like a 30 to 40 minute episode, maybe I would like split it into 2 videos. It actually ended up being like an hour and a half long, split up into 3. So yeah, since I filmed the whole thing pretty spontaneously, not really knowing what the structure was going to be. Like I mentioned earlier, I didn't even know like if I was going to narrate or if it was just going to be vlogging and then like B-roll and music in between. So the whole time I was on the trip, I was like, I literally don't know what this is going to be. Like, I don't know how this is going to fit together. I'm just going to have to figure something out while I'm editing, and hopefully, fingers crossed, something's going to come together. So I'm really glad something did come together. So in terms of how I feel about this whole experience, my initial reaction when I got home was basically like, yeah, that was like really, really cool. But I was like scared the whole time or stressed about something going wrong, or I don't know, fear of danger in some sort. But yeah, that's still kind of how I feel about it. I definitely had a great time, but it was really stressful for me. And I want to just put it out there that the reason why it was so stressful was because this was the first solo trip that I've ever done in my entire life. I've never car camped before, and most of the places I went to I'd never been to before. Earlier in the video, I said that I hadn't even been out of the country since I was a kid. So there was just a lot of new territory that I was scared to break into. But the whole point of me doing this trip was because I want to change that. And I would love to do more stuff like this in the future. So, you got to start somewhere. And I think for what it was, it did work out pretty well. Yes, it's scary to try things for the first time, but you just got to do it. So, in case you didn't see the first episode where I vlogged to the camera for the first time, and it's so cringeworthy, at least for me. Like, I'm still not super comfortable in front of the camera, but looking back and watching that first time was like, oh God, this is like so painful for me. But anyways, if you didn't see that part of the series, which is at the very beginning, it's in like minute number 1 or 2, I talk about why I went on this road trip alone. And I feel like, I don't know, it's fairly self-explanatory because there's a lot of people who solo travel all the time. But for the context of this trip in particular, I honestly did want to do it with somebody or multiple people. I felt like that would have been really fun, but I was waiting for the opportunity to arise, and I just had this thing inside me where I was like, I really want to do this, and if no one else is gonna be part of this, then I just have to do it. I have to do it alone, and if I did it alone, I could have done it in any way I liked, which is exactly what I did. So, while it would have been fun to have other people to share this experience with, which I talked about in the second episode of the series. It was magnificently fulfilling in so many other ways by doing this alone. I did feel lonely, but that's kind of just part of it. I had a crisis, and that's just what it was. And, you know, a lot of people go through that. That doesn't mean you can't face it and come out alive, you know? So yeah, it was a scary thing to get out there, but it was also very empowering because you have the power to do cool shit whenever you want. I mean, you know, there's always some obstacle or obstacles that will prevent you from like booking a next day flight or whatever. But I feel like in most cases, there's always a way to just figure it out. So if you have a desire to do something like this, do it, dude. But anyways, I just wanted to leave things on a positive note because at the end of the day, even though I was stressed for a lot of this trip, it was so worth it. I'm so happy that I went. I am really proud of myself that I did it as well. And even though there were a lot of mental blocks to get over, I think now that I've done it, it'll make next time even easier. So yeah, that being said, I'd totally do a trip like this again. I feel like there was a lot of places in the Pacific Northwest that I wanted to go to that I just didn't have the time to do or the money, really. But basically, this whole trip was fueled by recommendations from other people. I basically created my entire itinerary around places that people said I should check out, and that was so wonderful. So if you have any recommendations for where I should go next in the Pacific Northwest, I would love to hear them. You can drop them in the comments if you want. Or if you don't have any recommendations and you watched the whole series or maybe just this episode, let me know what place you liked that I went to that you might want to go to. I also do want to do some maybe shorter weekend trips in California. So if you have any recommendations for California too, not just Oregon or Washington, let me know. I want to get back out there again. I've been cooped up all summer editing this video. I feel like I need another adventure. So let me know where I should go and I might check it out. So yes, I should probably wrap up this video because it was already really long before I tacked on this vlog at the end. So I just wanted to close out by saying thank you if you got this far in the video, and a special thank you if you watched the entire series. And it's also been really special hearing how everybody has been resonating with the different parts in these videos, whether it was in a comment or if you reached out to me directly. It's been so crazy to hear how many people feel really connected to these experiences that I've been going through. And I know like these kinds of experiences I've been sharing are pretty, you know, universal things that people go through. And that's why I like to share them. I know that people will connect with that, but to hear people along the way really resonate with the stuff that I was saying really kept me motivated to continue the series and finish this dang thing. So thank you for that. If you commented or reached out to me, it really does mean a lot and has made me really inspired to think about what's next, because this consumes so much of my time that I really didn't feel like I had the time to think about what my next project was going to be. So I do have some ideas now, and I'm really excited to share them with you. If you aren't subscribed already, feel free to witness what happens next in the journey that is my life and this channel as a whole. So I'm really excited for what the future brings, and I hope you'll come along with me. So, all that being said, I'll see you soon.